pumped, like everything's on the edge.
Hi, I'm Fred, head coach at Yousuli. Welcome to the Epic Endurance podcast, where we take a deep dive into endurance, strength and conditioning. Today we are going to talk about tire pressure and why it matters. Why pressure matters. It's important to understand that for tires, pressure affects three things: speed, comfort and safety. A tire at the wrong pressure will be slower, less safe and probably less comfortable as well. Most professional cyclists and athletes will pay close attention to how much pressure, how much air they put in their tire. Before we can get into specifics, I think it's important to understand a bit more about tire and tire construction. The composition of the tire. We have the rubber compound. Softer tire usually means better grip, more grippy tires, but the tire wear faster and usually is more prone to punctures. On the other side, a tire which is harder, made of a harder material, it tends to be less grippy and less prone to puncture. The second thing we look at is TPI, is the tread per inches, and a high TPI tire also tends to be more supple, have better comfort and better rolling resistance. The lower the rolling resistance, the better, the faster we can go. But the high TPI tire tends to be more prone to cuts. There are different kinds of tire used. Formerly, most people using clincher tires. This is when you think about cycling. This is the typical tire with the inner tube inside. At one point, many people were using tubular, which were glued onto the wheel. And right now, a lot of people are transitioning to tubeless tires, which have a sealant and are placed upon the wheel. And tubeless tires don't have any inner tube, and the tire beads sits tightly into a tubeless ready rim. A sealant is being put inside. The sealant usually addresses 98% of small punctures, so in the case of the tire having a puncture, the sealant will leak and basically stop the puncture from happening. There are advantages to these three types of tires. Clincher tires are very easy to install, and possibly during ultra endurance event they might be a little easier to repair if really comes down to that. Tubular tires, at this stage, I don't think there is any reason to use them anymore. They used to be high-performance tires, but they're very time-consuming to fix, and I don't recommend them. And tubeless tires, they offer very good performance for lower pressure and better comfort, and also have this added benefit of being able to self-heal in case of puncture. When we look at tires, normally we look at a couple of things to estimate the key tire performance markers. The grip, how grippy is the tire, so will it skid if it's wet or on any road condition. The rolling resistance, for high performance athletes, rolling resistance will probably be one of the biggest consideration. This is the amount of, could say, watts lost by the tire in itself when it's rolling. The weight of the tire, that might also be a component when making a selection. Comfort, some tires are more comfortable than others, and puncture resistance. No tire is perfect. There is no tire that excels in everything. Usually when rolling resistance goes up, then potentially puncture resistance goes down, like we mentioned with TPI. So there are tires that are better than others by a significant margin and more expensive. There are websites specialized into reviewing these tires and giving notes. Most of people doing time trial will select a couple of brands that are very popular. Most people doing for ultra endurance ride might choose other tires for other specific reasons. So it is important to understand what are your needs and choose the tire that will work accordingly within your budget, of course. And then we want to talk about performance. For any given tire you choose, performance is strongly affected by the amount of pressure or air that is being put into the tire. A tire that is overinflated will have a tendency to bounce, and therefore if the tire is not on the ground, then you're not making forward movement. On the other side, a tire that is too low in pressure also will lack performance and lack safety, as it will be more prone to slippage and it will increase rolling resistance. There's a range which you should try to aim for to maximize the benefits that your tire give while diminishing the rolling resistance as much as possible. Like we said, different kind of tires are able to perform differently. So a tubeless tire will perform as well as a clincher tire at lower pressure at a lower PSI, which will lead to better comfort. The width of the tire will also make a huge impact. So people used to ride very thin tires. Now most people on road cycling ride 28, which is a couple of millimeters more than before, and this increase in width is increasing comfort substantially. It dampens the vibration from the ground. Do spend some time to see what kind of width you can put on your bike based on your wheel. So not every wheel will be able to put any kind of tire size. Not every wheel will be able to put tubeless ready tires. Certain wheels can, certain wheels cannot. So tubeless ready wheels can put tubeless tires, and the other ones will probably just use clincher. So I've made a small calculator on Yousuli, which is again free for everyone. This will serve as a guide. Again, it is important to play with these numbers and always follow the guidelines from both the tire manufacturer and the wheel manufacturers. You will have maximum pressures written on the tires, and you should never exceed them. On some tires also will be written the lowest possible pressure, and you should never go down. So this is a tire pressure guide, and it has two modes. We'll first look at the quick mode, which uses metric or imperial, and you can enter the rider weight, the bike weight. So I'm going to put 80 kilos, and the bike, I'm going to say it's a 6.5 kilogram bike, and it has, so you have typical road size. We're going to put, for example, a 26 to start with at the front and 26 at the back, and this gives you a range with a median point of 77 psi. Now if we're to increase this to 28, then the pressure, recommended pressure goes down, the range also goes down a little bit. The rider's weight, the bike weight, and the tire all will impact the recommended pressure because the more weight you put on your bike, then the tire will respond differently. So this is a really basic one. If we go into the advanced mode, we'll play with other things. So you still have your rider's weight, bike weight from tire width. I'm going to stay with 28 because it's what I use personally, but you can change. You can also, some people use different size in the front and the back, and more advanced options. So 700C is what most of bicycles are using. The size of your wheel will obviously impact the amount of air that is inside. I'll just listed 3 here. I could add more, but for now just put 3 because these are the most common. You will have a 750C, which is usually made for woman-specific geometry bicycles, which are pretty cool. But again, the tire pressure will differ, and here you have for mountain bikes or gravel bikes that are smaller in size. But we'll stay to the standard 700C, which is what we find most of the time. Road condition will also impact. We're going to stay on the road, and if it's a clincher tire, is has a tube inside. I didn't put tubular. I think I'm biased against them, but it's okay. You have tube, so clincher tires, tubeless, hookless, so tubeless with hooks. The difference is some wheels have a hook inside which the tire can really firmly hook inside. The hook wheels usually allow for greater pressure and might be considered a little safer, but most of tubeless wheels or tubeless ready wheels are hookless, and the rider posture. So this affects basically the amount of weight you're putting on the front of your bicycle or in the back. So if you're on a road or a mountain bike, your position will change. If you're on a tri-bike, there will be probably even distribution of weight, so that the tire pressure will be even. For sake of the argument, we'll put road condition. If the conditions are wet and you want to be having a bit more grip, even if it means increasing slightly the rolling resistance to increase safety, you might want to lower the pressure. So we're just going to use wet for now. The speed also will affect the deformation of the tire, and the heat might also increase the amount of expansion that the air is having inside the tire. The altitude and the temperature also affect this. So here again, I'm just giving a range, which you should first use and then try to tweak and maybe see in real life how it works. But we're going to say we're riding at, let's say 38 kilometers per hour, and we're under 1000, and it's about 25 degrees Celsius. And the recommended pressure here will be 57 on the front and 62, or a range of 52 to 66 and 56 to 72. Here again, a reminder not to exceed the limits. If we're to play a little bit and say we were going on to not a wet condition, so 57, we're changing, going back to dry, and the recommended pressure increases. So again, to answer your question, why is this important? Well, putting air into your tire is pretty cheap, if not free. You can, if you have a bike pump and if you have a gauge, something to measure the pressure, you should be able to tell very precisely how much PSI you have in your tires. This can affect your performance, your comfort, and your safety drastically. In very extreme situation, we're talking about 30, 40 watts different if the ground is pretty bad, but usually you go into 5, 10 watts, which can be significant for a lot of people. Lowering their intensity of riding by 5 watts and going at the same speed while increasing comfort is a huge gain. I recommend making this a practice to always look at your tire pressure before going out, looking at these ranges and then playing with numbers to see what works best, and again addressing and changing based on environmental condition. So if it's wet, if you're in a different place, if you're riding faster. So that will be it for today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and hope you have a great one. Thank you.